Hello everybody, it's Fufu here, and I'm really excited to introduce a new series on this channel with my friend John, aka PokeMEN. We are going to be doing a series called Is Blank a Strong Pokemon Now? We're looking at Pokemon in different competitive formats and analysing whether they are good or not, and if they are viable at all, what their niche is. It's going to be really interesting, lots of fun information, and hopefully ideas so that you can try these Pokemon out for yourself. Today I'm going to be looking at Tyranitar, a Gen 2 monster, a behemoth that we've been seeing for the longest time. Really excited to dive into this one, but first, what are you going to be looking at on your channel, John?
Speaking of Pokemon we have seen for a very long time, I'm going to be going over whether or not Dragonite is a strong Pokemon now. Another pseudo-legendary to pair with Tyranitar. I am so excited for this brand new series, and I really hope you guys are going to like it. But first, before we talk about the dragon, we gotta talk about this powerful rock beast.
So in terms of its typing, Tyranitar is a rock dark type, which is a pretty unique typing, and it has amazing stats across the board. It's really one of the best stat distributions in the game, I feel. The attack stat is insane, it hits really hard, but you also notice that amazing bulk. Every bulk stat is above 100, which is fantastic to see. It's got a usable special attack stat too, and its speed is the only thing that lets it down a little bit. At 61, it's not the best. But in terms of its abilities, again, it stands out here. It has the Sandstream ability, a weather setting ability, which they are always really, really useful for your team. And why it's so good for Tyranitar is because it is a rock type, which means when it is in Sandstorm, it gets a special defense boost. So this thing is automatically boosting its special defense, which is already very high. So this thing is incredibly bulky and incredibly strong, which is fantastic. It does have a hidden ability in Unnerve, which prevents the opponent from eating berries. That can be more useful in doubles where you see berries a bit more often, but generally Sandstream is such an amazing ability that you're unlikely to see Unnerve frequently.
Tyranitar is a Pokemon that already shines with its typing, its stats, and its abilities, but it also has a very, very diverse and wide move pool. On the offensive side, it has a lot of coverage and just some really powerful moves to just go with the typings that it has. With Stone Edge, I mean, you could substitute that for something a little bit more accurate like Rock Slide, but Stone Edge, when it hits, is incredibly powerful. Crunch is a really, really solid dark physical move. Pursuit is a fantastic move for Tyranitar, and we will be going over that a little bit more in depth later on. Earthquake is a very, very good coverage move. Edgequake is something that a lot of people like to use competitively, and the elemental punches, that's a good place to put. We don't have to put the specific ones, as you can really tack those on depending on what matchup you're anticipating, and it's really, really nice to round out some offensive sets. On the utility side, it has one of the best moves, if not the best move in the game in Stealth Rock, and that's going to be a fantastic move that you can put on a variety of sets. Roar is really nice for phasing Pokemon out. Thunder Wave, something that you probably wouldn't expect it to get, can be really, really nice and cripple a lot of different threats that your opponent may have. And Taunt is another important move, really stops some Pokemon from setting up. This Pokemon really, not only is it so offensive, but it can stop things from sweeping and get rocks up. It's really nice. And then it can also set up with Dragon Dance and Rock Polish. Its speed is its worst stat by far, so the fact that it has two different options to fix that and also to bring its attack set up to crazy levels is really, really scary. This thing has an awesome move pool, and this isn't even scratching the surface of all the cool moves that Tyranitar can use.
So now that we've seen how amazingly diverse its stats and its move pool is, we're going to talk about some sets. But really, we can't talk about all the viable sets that Tyranitar has in this video. But I'll get on with the first one, and it's going to be a Choice Band set. Tyranitar has a very high attack stat. That Choice Band boosts it even further so that this thing can really break down walls. Obviously, it's got that ability Sandstream to make it a lot bulkier, and where that really helps is that Tyranitar can switch in on lots of different Pokemon. Its typing helps out here as well, because that rock typing, though not the best defensive typing, it does give some really nice resistances for normal and flying, for example. And then the dark typing is very, very good, because it means that it is immune to the psychic types, and that is fantastic. So in terms of the EVs, you can really play around with these. I'd say having a few speed EVs so that you can outspeed some walls, like the base 70s like Skarmory, Mantine, we see them relatively frequently in singles, so you can try and outspeed those. And then the rest in HP, aside from your attack stat. Obviously your attack stat is what you're investing in the most with an adamant nature, because Choice Band you want to hit as hard as possible. But having a lot of HP means that this thing is going to be as bulky as possible and can tank so many hits. In terms of the attacks, we've gone with Stone Edge. It is a little bit inaccurate, but when it connects, it decimates the opponent, so it's a really nice one to have. Crunch is good there as well because it's just a good coverage move, nothing is immune, and it always hits. So that's always good to have a strong move, a strong stab move that always hits. The next move is Pursuit, and this is where the set stands out. Pursuit catches any Pokemon that tries to switch out, and it's especially good for OHKOing Psychic types that try to switch out. But because Tyranitar is so powerful and it's holding the Choice Band, a lot of the time you can just Pursuit trap anything that wants to switch out and do a huge chunk of damage. And that's where its bulk really stands out, because you can switch in on so many things. They're scared of being hit by a massive Crunch or Stone Edge, so they try to switch away, but you catch them anyway with that Pursuit. So this is one of the best Pursuit trappers in the game, really good at getting rid of the Pokemon on your opponent's team that you're very scared of, and it's so effective and fantastic for that reason. The last move is just a coverage move. Earthquake really helps you hit a lot of other things that might otherwise resist your moves, or just to get some nice damage on certain Pokemon. Heatran is obviously going to be hit very hard by the Earthquake. You could try to use something else there, something like Superpower or Low Kick, if, for example, you're fearing going up against other Tyranitars, or things like Mega Kangaskhan obviously doesn't like those fighting type hits, so that is an alternative there. Or even maybe Fire Punch if you think you're going up against a lot of Steel types, so that's an option too. But this set is just so effective at dealing massive damage, but also just staying around and having that Sandstorm as well, so you can build your team around the Sandstorm set. And just a very, very great wall breaker. So nice to have on your team.
Don't think we forgot about Mega Tyranitar, as we will be going over a set for all of the Megas whenever we do cover a Pokemon that does have a Mega form. While it is a different Pokemon, it is also something you get on the field by putting a different item on the regular Pokemon. And in this situation, a Mega Tyranitar generally has one sort of a set. It does get bulkier and a little bit faster, and actually it gets a higher attack set, which is pretty crazy. But all of these things come together and make it a very, very solid Dragon Dance user. Definitely a lot better than regular Tyranitar, as this thing's going to be able to take hits easier on both the physical and the special side, which is really nice. It already has more speed, so it will be immediately outspeeding so many more Pokemon once it does get its first Dragon Dance up. And with that extra attack, I mean, just having 3 attacks is probably enough to break through most teams. In this set, we don't really have any crazy EVs, you know, just max attack, max speed. If you want to go Jolly or Adamant, depending on the situation, what you're trying to outspeed after +1, that's really up to you. Jolly's probably the best thing just in general, unless you're trying to get specific. I would definitely recommend that. Obviously, Dragon Dance. After that, you definitely want to have some stab with Stone Edge. I would imagine that the Rock Stab would be a lot better in most situations than focusing on the Dark Stab. Stone Edge is so powerful, especially with the extra crit chance. Obviously, you can miss, but after a Dragon Dance from a Mega Tyranitar, Stone Edge is going to do way more than most people want to pretty much every Pokemon. And if you're worried about hitting something like a Steel type with Stone Edge, you can hit it with Fire Punch or Earthquake, depends on what you want there. And then also Ice Punch is another nice coverage move to go along with the Stab Stone Edge. Obviously, Tyranitar has a lot of different moves it can run. It really depends on exactly what you want to throw on this thing after you have Dragon Dance. The main thing is Dragon Dance, get that stab on there, make sure you have the coverage that you feel comfortable with, and once you're in a battle, it's time to really unleash this beast.
So far we've talked about 2 sets that actually shine in the singles format, but now I want to take the time to look at a doubles set, because Tyranitar is also very prevalent in doubles. If you play VGC, you'll see this thing quite a lot. And the set that we're going to be looking at is Choice Scarf Tyranitar. Now, why Choice Scarf Tyranitar works is because it has that amazing attack stat, but also because it has a very good bulk as well, and access to Rock Slide. In doubles, Rock Slide is an incredible move. It can hit hard as long as you've got a high attack stat and that you're rock type, so you get the stab bonus on it. If you invest max in attack, Tyranitar does hit very hard with the Rock Slide. It hits both of your opponents and it has a chance to flinch. It has a 30% chance to flinch. The only issue is that obviously it's not as accurate. It doesn't have max accuracy, so it might miss some of the opponents. But if you do hit, you have a decent chance of flinching at least one of the opponents, which is amazing. Its speed stat isn't the best, so you still might be outsped by some things, but you will be outspeeding the majority of things in the doubles format. The other moves that you might want to try is Crunch, just to hit a bit harder because it's not a spread move. It targets one Pokemon and it's a strong stab move. Ice Punch is there to cover for certain things. You see Landorus quite a lot wherever you play, so being able to Ice Punch him in the face is always very fun. And Low Kick is a great coverage move. It hits other rock types, it hits the steel types that would resist your Rock Slide, so it's a really good coverage move to have there. In the doubles format, you have a number of other options in terms of the moves you use, but again, you could use a different item there as well. The Choice Band set also works in doubles, but you want to run Rock Slide instead of Stone Edge, and there are loads of other things you can do too. In order to really understand how strong a Pokemon is, we need to compare it to other Pokemon to see whether it has its own niche. We need to know if other Pokemon maybe perform its role better than it. So now we'll just look at a few other Pokemon that might be able to do Tyranitar's job.
When comparing Tyranitar to another offensive rock type, we can look at Terrakion, who is a very, very scary offensive rock type and definitely has a few advantages over Tyranitar. One of those things is its speed. The speed on Terrakion makes it a threat as soon as it hits the field, and not only does it have that speed already, but it does also have Rock Polish and Swords Dance. So while Tyranitar can use Rock Polish and Dragon Dance itself, Terrakion already has the speed, already has the attack, and can still do both of those things that Tyranitar can do, and it just makes it a little bit scarier to go against a Terrakion. Is it going to set up? Is it just going to spam something like Close Combat? Is it going to set up a Substitute? That can make it really, really scary, and the fact that it does have the Fighting Stab, it's a very, very spammable move. Obviously, Tyranitar, in doubles and singles can spam, whether it be Stone Edge or Rock Slide, and Terrakion can do the same thing. Terrakion gets the ability with Close Combat, and while Crunch Stab is nice on Tyranitar, it's a lot better in most situations just to click Close Combat than to do that. And when you do have Tyranitar, going for Superpower over and over and over again is not going to work out too well, as you will get those drops. So that isn't fantastic for it. But on the flip side, Terrakion doesn't have access to something like Pursuit. While it does have Close Combat, Pursuit is really fantastic in its own right, and that really works well with Tyranitar's bulk, as Tyranitar can switch in on some moves, force a faster Pokemon, obviously not Terrakion, but maybe a Pokemon that's a little bit faster and offensive like that, maybe an Alakazam. Switch in on a move from that, it tries to switch out Pursuit, that thing is dead, and there's a lot of other Pokemon that will work for, and just, having the Sand as a rock type is going to give it that extra bulk, be able to wear down other Pokemon that are in against Tyranitar, and that is really solid. So while Terrakion does have that extra speed, maybe some other moves to use that are a little bit more spammable and scary, Tyranitar definitely has the bulk and it will survive a little bit longer, while also having a few more options.
So we've looked at another rock type, but now I think we'll consider another dark type, an offensive dark type in Bisharp. Now, why Bisharp is a comparison is it's also a good Pursuit Trapper and a Wall Breaker, but it does have a few things that it can do which Tyranitar can't, and that is access to Knock Off, an amazing dark type move which you can spam to remove the opponent's items, and also Sucker Punch for priority. So again, Bisharp, like Tyranitar, isn't the fastest Pokemon, but it can compensate for that by going for Sucker Punch. It does have dual typing as well, with the Steel type allowing Bisharp to take on fairies really well, and with the Iron Head move it can decimate them. And then it does have setup options. Like Tyranitar, it could go for a Rock Polish, but it gets the Swords Dance as well, which is fantastic for breaking down walls. You don't have to be Choice Band, you can Swords Dance and then look at breaking walls, but not only that, sweeping the opponent. So those are the things that Bisharp can probably do better than Tyranitar. However, Bisharp is not as bulky as Tyranitar and can sometimes struggle to set up anyway. Tyranitar has amazing bulk, and where that really works in Tyranitar's favour is that though they are both Pursuit Trappers, Bisharp really can't switch in on too many things. It has to be very careful, and so getting your Pursuit Trap can be a lot harder. Whereas Tyranitar, you don't have to predict as hard, you don't have to worry about it, you can just throw it in there and try to Pursuit the opponent, so it's probably a better Pursuit Trapper than Bisharp. The other thing that I'd say about Bisharp, it's relatively predictable. You're going to see a similar set most of the time in that it's probably going to be a Sword Stance set, whereas Tyranitar, one of the key things about it is you just don't know which set it will be running. It could be running a support set with Stealth Rock, or it could be running a speedy set. It could be running so many different things that you just don't know. It's really hard to predict, and therefore your opponent will struggle much more to play around your Tyranitar. But as I say, we've only really been considering Tyranitar in one role for these things, as an offensive rock type and then an offensive dark type. But it's got so much more to do. It can be a utility set with rocks. It provides sand support for your team, so you could have a whole sand team built around Tyranitar with a Sand Rush Pokemon and other things. And it also has an impressive special move pool that we haven't even touched on yet, with so much more that it can do, including the Mega Form, which we barely touched on too. This thing has definitely ways of finding its own niche, and it could always fill a slot on your team.
Tyranitar is a strong Pokemon now, and it's always been a strong Pokemon. There's so many things it can do, whether it just be being an offensive Pokemon, some of its more niche sets, a support Pokemon. There's just so many roles for it, and I can't even imagine if we get to Generation 20 that Tyranitar will not still be a powerful Pokemon. Its stats are just too great, it has so many moves it can use, and there are just so many different options for this absolute beast of a Pokemon.
So there you go, our first is Tyranitar, a strong Pokemon now. I think we are very happy that Tyranitar is a strong Pokemon, but please now go and check John's channel for Dragonite, because we'll be discussing that and analysing that over there. If you like this video, please give it a like, because it is the first in the series, so it would be great to get some feedback on that, and let us know what you think in the comments section below. If you want to see more of these, then definitely consider subscribing to the channel, and as I say, please go and check out John's channel now. But that's going to be all for today. Thank you very much for watching. I've been foofootoo, you've been awesome, and hopefully see you next time. Goodbye.